Hi, it's Jon Binnie, and welcome along to the concepts of this universe, these universal truths as I know them and understand them. And in this video, we'll cover the explanation of quite a few subjects that will help you step into some of the work that you do with me. And this could be the spirit guide meditations, the training sessions that I offer, or even preparing to do a one-to-one session with me. And before I explain each of these, I would like to first of all explain that they are my truth, they are my knowledge and my knowing. So much of what I'm going to tell you, the vast majority, is self-learned and self-experienced. And I'd encourage you to use your discernment for you to decide with each subject that I explain and each aspect of it to feel into your heart and to feel into, like, what is your truth? How would you explain it to yourself? How would you explain it to someone else that was new to this concept? And this is the beauty of the universe. Each of us have our own individual truth. And so I encourage you to explore yours also. Okay, so let's get started. I'm reading from a list. So I'm just reading the title of each on my phone here. And then I'll explain a bit about each. Okay, so let's start with source. So source is, for me, the highest source of love of this universe, and it is a force that flows through all of us. Every single living thing and everything is living, even the planets and stars. And so that source energy in us, I see as this little divine spark in the center of our hearts, this little golden light that sits within us, and it actually sits just in the high heart chakra. And what's beautiful about source is that it is an infinite, creative and sentient force. I see that in its highest form, in the highest dimensions that exist, that source becomes one. It becomes instead of like being lots of little individual like divine sparks in the center of the hearts and souls of every living thing, it becomes part of everything. It becomes this oneness, and I'll come on to unity later. And so that when I talk in my meditations about like going up to connecting up to the highest dimension of source, I mean like the highest dimension of the source of love of this universe. You could also consider this like a kind of God aspect to source for me, in that it is a creative force, and that in some sessions, in some meditations, I do connect in with source and channel source. So source has the ability to speak as one voice, like a single being. Like if you consider God as a single being, for me, like source is capable of doing this also, being a unified field of love, and then also being expressing as an individual being, and then expressing itself through us, each of us. And I see each of us like each of the divine sparks in our hearts, like this kind of almost like random exploration of source, continually trying to find new ways to express itself uniquely in each of us, and then express its love back to itself. So we are source, uniquely expressing love back to source, and that source energy exists in everything. And some people choose to interchange when they're listening to me using the word source. They might change it to God or God source, or any, sometimes it's like a nickname. So it's totally up to you. I just want to be clear what I mean when I say source. Okay, let's talk about Gaia. So in the very first spirit guide meditations I do, I connect a cord from the center of my heart, from my divine spark. I send it up into source above, which we've covered, but I also send it down into the core of Mother Earth, into Mother Gaia's crystalline heart, I often say. And so imagine the Earth as being alive, and in the center of the Earth is the very heart and the very core, like in the physical core of Earth, is where Mother Earth's soul resides. And her soul name is Gaia. And this is a term used by many cultures around the world. And that Mother Earth as a soul is also someone that you can connect with, commune with, and that you can talk to her, she can talk back, you can send her love and gratitude. And she has like any soul, she has an incarnation, a personality, and that any of our souls are capable of being the souls that exist within a planet that host the planet. And same with stars as well. Like stars have souls. And so, yeah, that's Mother Gaia. She's really beautiful, incredibly tolerant of our adventures of humanity, both into darkness and into light and everything in between. And so I always, when I connect in with her, I'm very grateful, and I always send her love and thank her. And I also connect in with our crystalline heart. So when I talk about the crystalline heart, crystalline is an evolution, an ascension of our forms. So as we ascend, as we raise our vibrations and we practice things like meditation and other things, we are ascending, we are raising our vibrations. And this has a physical effect on us over time. So there's this kind of almost like an evolutionary progression, except it can be within the same lifetime, where you're ascending from this very like dense physical form into more like a watery, like plasma, crystalline, like crystal, and very flexible, malleable, and very high vibration, almost like a high vibration liquid form of what we are now. I mean, we're already like, the vast majority of our human being is water, but it's like that ascension. You may see some people having little sparkles on their hands in videos, or talking about crystalline bodies. And I'd definitely encourage you to do your own research and to explore what you feel that means for you. So I feel like I covered source, Gaia, and then we also touched on crystalline. Let's also talk about angels. So. And I just want to be clear, I do not consider myself religious in any way. When I was much younger, when I was a child, my parents briefly like introduced me to into going to church and like to Christian church, and I found it really eye-opening. I found like the stories and the the fact that when you bring people together, there's a very beautiful experience. However, so much of it didn't resonate with me, and so my parents like kind of stopped at that point, and I left as well. Really, I'm not even sure. Like probably it'll be before the age of 10, maybe earlier. But yeah, since then, in my work now, I work with primarily Archangel Michael, Archangel Raphael, Archangel Uriel, and Archangel Haniel. And to explain a bit about them and how I decided to work with them. So I was aware that other like spiritual mentors, healers, like tarot readers, loads of people work with the archangels. And I think the first thing that's really helpful is to see them as equals. And that might be hard for some people's belief systems, but it's so important in any of our spiritual awakening journey never to give our power away. And that includes to anything, to source, to Gaia, to angels, to anything or anyone. And you know and celebrate that the source exists within your heart, and that you are a unique expression. And that to me, the archangels are from an angelic realm. And yes, it is very high vibration. They struggle to they struggle to descend to Earth. And so they call on us to connect to our highest vibration. If we want to talk to angels, we need to be of like a clear energy and clear intention and purpose, and angels are discerning, like they have personalities. They have light and dark, just like we do, so that they have opinions, and they're not, they're like any being that exists out with pure source. Every being, including angels, like have a personality. So that's just something to know and be cognizant of. I work with Archangel Michael, and you can Google search and watch videos about the archangels. For me, Archangel Michael is first and foremost a protector, and also a clearer of energies and negative energies. I work with him the most when I'm creating protection around me, when I'm asking for help in clearing negative energy. When I go to in retrievals to retrieve parts of people's soul fragments in one-to-one sessions, I ask Archangel Michael often to come with me and to assist me in the journey when we go to the lower realms, which I'll explain in a different concept. And then Archangel Raphael is a healer, and he's incredible. Like, he has this incredible love energy, and he often guides me when I'm healing people. So when I'm working closely with them, working through their bodies, through their chakra system, which I'll come on to, he's often there, and I can call him in. So it's almost like I feel like I'm in surgery, energetic surgery with a client, and then I'll ask the archangel to come over and check what I'm doing. It's like getting a second opinion, watch what you're doing, and they may ask you or guide you or sometimes offer some energetic assistance. And then Archangel Haniel, now a lesser known archangel, but Archangel Haniel for me is helped teach me my self-love. They're also great for helping with like intuition, and that's really powerful. So if you want help with those two things, with self-love and intuition, you can work with Archangel Haniel. Not many people do, but it's up to you. They work with other angels for the same things. And then I also mentioned Archangel Uriel. To me, Archangel Uriel is like a gatekeeper to the higher realms. And what's really beautiful about that is that Archangel Uriel is very discerning. So if you're working, either you yourself or if you're working with a client that has very difficult, they find it difficult to create boundaries and to be sovereign, then Archangel Uriel is fantastic. And you can ask Archangel Uriel, for help with these things, like, should I allow this being or person or energy into my field or not? So they're the archangels. You can call them in meditation. I would just encourage you, for each archangel, to spend some time to get to know them. So do a meditation and ask to speak to one of them. Get a feeling for their color. And by color, I mean the color of their energy, what the frequency of their energy feels like. And you have to build a relationship. You have to build a bond with them. Archangel Michael and I go back many, many lifetimes, and Archangel Raphael on and off. And Archangel Haniel is quite new to me, as is Archangel Uriel. There are many, many archangels, and you can ask for them as well. And some people also work with ascended masters, so humans that have gone on to ascend to similar realms to angelic realms or into angelic realms, and so you can also look those up as well. So yeah, that's the archangels. And yeah, I'm just conscious that some people feel that the angels in particular are attached to certain religions, and I don't feel that. I do celebrate every religion, and it's when it's doing good for, and it has great intentions for humanity and the universe. And I'm not dismissive of anyone's religion, but just to be aware that this is how I feel about religion, that it's not one religion is really for me. Okay. I want to talk about chakras. I don't think I talked about that yet. So chakras Again, like all these things, source and Gaia and angels, chakras, you can Google and read about, and people, write a lot about these things. For me, chakras are, they're incredible. They are the energy centers within our body that perform such super key functions. And they are like a bridge between the kind of metaphysical, like the fourth, fifth, sixth dimension, and they're also a connection into our 3D body. So when I'm doing chakra healing, I'm healing both the physical body and I'd call it like the light body, which is like the higher aspects of dimensions of our body. So if I think about the different chakras, there's the crown chakra for sending and receiving messages with the higher realms, like your spirit guides. There's the third eye chakra for seeing, ghosts and seeing through dimensions and through space and time, seeing the kind of impossible. There's the throat chakra for expressing your truth, your freedom of speech, and it's very energetic. Like you need to release that truth and release that energy from you, regardless of whether other people are listening. There's your high heart chakra, which is where your soul connects into your human form. There's your heart chakra, which is like the energy center of all your love. There's your solar plexus, which is all about like that creativity and abundance, sending and receiving abundance. There's your sacral chakra, which is a very passionate and sexual energy center. Often it's like where your fire. I see your fire in both your solar plexus, like the sun energy, and then also in your sacral chakra, and then your root chakra. And your root chakra is just down at the base of your spine, and that is amazing for connecting into planet Earth, like grounding down like roots, or stretching out like these energy connections into Mother Earth. And when I work with chakras, I see how they perform. I see their shape. So when I'm working through a client's healing session, I can see like the kind of circle or oval or whatever shape the chakra looks like. Often they're spinning. You see the colors of them. If there's any energies or entities like attached to them. So yeah, there's a lot to learn about chakras. They also have the ability to create portals. And they are, to a degree, they are also sentient. And so you can talk to a chakra, like I'll talk to a chakra and ask it to like return to its natural size, like whatever feels good for the client. I'm just going to get a glass of water. It's very dry in the studio. Okay, it's better. So let's talk about spiritual awakenings. So spiritual awakenings, they happen really in any way. So mine was in a Kundalini yoga session in 2017. One of the first times I'd like meditated ever in my life for like about an hour. And I saw like the creation of the universe, the planets and the stars, all the energy flowing through them and between them. And I just started meditating every day. I was hooked. And that changed my life very quickly. Within a couple of weeks, I started talking to my spirit guides, and the rest is my journey. I've heard of people. I know people who go through awakenings through substance use. So they might take ayahuasca, or be microdosing or magic mushrooms or whatever it is, and that triggers this like event in them, like it changes their paradigm of their of their life. Some people through trauma, through pregnancy, through really any like big event in your life, and it might even be quite small. It might be like a realization. So this can cause a spiritual awakening. And once it happens, it's a bit like you can never you can go back, I guess, if you want to, but it's like you wake up. You've suddenly woken up to the world around you. And if you've got this far in this video and you're working with me, likely you're like at some stage in your awakening journey. And then the good news is they never really end. Like you're just continually going through awakenings, but that first big one is like when you wake up, and then you start your journey. Some people are, well, you could argue all people are born awakened. So this means that all children and babies are in an awakened state, and that through their childhoods, they're kind of, they are both programmed, and we program ourselves to just, stop paying attention to these other sensitivities and gifts that we have. And we some of us choose to shut them down. I certainly chose to shut them down through my teens and later in life. And some people experience walk-ins, and walk-ins where like the higher version, like a highest version of you steps into your human form. And it's you, but it's a highest version of you. And for people I know that's happened to, it's almost like their memories still exist prior to that, but they remember less, and their personality changes quite significantly. And I can imagine if you haven't seen someone for a few years, and in that time, so maybe just after you last saw them, they started their awakening journey. If you then saw them a few years later, you might even describe that as experiencing like they had a walk-in, because there's such a dramatic shift in their personality. And it's all for the better. Often they're like calmer, happier, healthier. They look better. Their energy's clearer. They're kind. They're loving. Not always, but these are just some of the attributes that you could see. Okay. And there are over 5 times more people going through their awakenings this year. And there's people that, if I look back at my awakening, if I look back at my awakening and Facebook reminders of like what happened in about the year prior to that, the universe was really trying its best to wake me up. It was like, hey, John, like, here's a shooting star. Here's like synchronicities and numbers. Here's like feathers, like angel feathers, like all these signs that they're trying to show me to like, maybe prepare me, maybe actually trying to wake me up. But my soul was like getting me ready. It's like, John, you came into this lifetime. You're going to go through an awakening in this lifetime, and it's time for you to have a good think about stepping into it. So that's fantastic. And there's also research on spiritual awakenings. So you can go, if you look online, if you look at like some of the Google Scholar pages, for example, you can see research on academics and scientists, studies that are done on groups of people that say they've been through spiritual awakenings and the effect that the awakening has, and it's all really, really similar themes. Like no individual awakening is the same, but there's many like similar themes. Such as you wake up, you feel like everyone else is asleep. You don't feel like you fit in your life anymore. You feel like there's so much you want to learn, and yet you're like totally brand new to this world. And it reminds me so much of Neo in the Matrix when he first wakes up. It's like, it's a huge paradigm shift to go through, but it's also really beautiful. And you can't force people, or shouldn't try and force people to go through their awakening. Just allow people to decide whether they go through their awakening or not in their life, and to be really clear that it's okay. Like, there's no judgment. No one's better than anyone else. We're all equal. We all choose what happens. It's our free will to choose whatever we want in our lifetimes. Okay, unity over duality. So unity, what is it? So unity is everything in the universe coming from the same source, but also has the ability to reconnect with every living thing also around the universe. And so nothing, no thing is excluded from unity. Unity is all one. And this is really beautiful because it allows us to do things like connect with each other and still be individual and yet be one together. So we can connect our hearts energetically to each other. We can unify an entire planet, solar system or galaxy or universe. And within that, we can be really clear that we are still unique and individual, but we are also one at the same time. Duality is, you see a lot of this in the kind of fear programming that goes on in planet Earth at this time. Duality is trying to separate that and say, no, there's them and us. There's dark and light, for example. Now, the reality is that I know that it's a whole spectrum. So you have from, the darkest darkness, the darkest void, or the darkest kind of evil of the universe, and then the lightest light on the other side. And yet, all of us, I know, are a spectrum of that whole range. And some of those concepts are really hard. And for me, what it means is that for every atrocity that you see or hear of or witness, there is part of you, there's part of me that is capable of doing that. Because in unity, no single being is excluded, and no part of the spectrum of us is excluded. And for me, it really helps with forgiveness. It helps me forgive others when I see how brutal the human race can be to each other, and yet how loving forgiveness and compassion can help bridge that gap, that unity, and help us realize that we are one. It doesn't mean to say that we shouldn't have boundaries and sovereignty, and that we shouldn't protect ourselves. Like all those latter things we have to do. But at the same time, to know that the evil that we see manifested through other people and their actions is a reflection of what exists in us, whether we like it or not, whether we consciously are aware of it or not. Okay, higher self, the soul, higher self, incarnations, past lives, spirit guides, and the energy first universe. Wow, there's a lot here. First of all, the soul, I see the soul as like this kind of light being that comes from source. Sometimes people describe it's coming from the galactic sun, like a giant sun at the center of the universe. And others see like the tree of life as a really useful kind of metaphor and metaphysicality, if that was a word. And that, from the leaves of the tree are like the soul is the tree, and then the leaves of the tree are the incarnations of us. And so your soul lives on forever, and the soul can exist for eternity and can also decide to return to source and amalgamate again with source, and kind of be recycled or come back, or like stay and just work through, lifetime after lifetime. The higher self is the highest ascended version, like the highest representation of a being of the soul. So the soul itself can't do a lot without incarnating or manifesting in some way into some sort of being. It's like purely just an energetic form, but as a higher self, you become like a sentient being, like a light body, or some people call like your highest human self as well, like the kind of highest ascended physical version of you. Your higher self is also incredible to be able to connect with like a proxy into like your spirit guides or other beings. So you can work through your higher self like almost like your own spirit guide of yourself. So it's still a part of you, but you're tapping into these highest dimensional gifts that you have. Incarnations. So for me, incarnation is as your soul is born from source, and then you go into like your first incarnation, like you go into your first physicality in any of the dimensions. You go through an incarnation, and as humans, we live for whatever we live for, 70, 100 years or whatever our lifespan is. And when we die, our souls go back to source, back with our souls, and then we can choose to reincarnate again. And every time that we come into these incarnations, our soul is trying to learn something and grow each time. And that includes trauma. Often our souls choose lifetimes and realities that inflict a significant amount of trauma on us as a means for us to grow. And sometimes our soul chooses to inflict, in an incarnation, to inflict a lot of pain and suffering on others, again, as a way of growing. And so there's no right or wrong. It just is. Excuse me. And that is really important to understand, that our souls often have a higher purpose and a higher knowing, but they're not all knowing. So for instance, sometimes I see in past lives that the soul has not fully understood what's happened in a past life, and they have some wounding, or they blame themselves for something that happened. And I'll come on to that in a bit. These past lives, time is quantum, right? So by that, I mean it is past, parallel, present, future, all at once, all existing in the same reality at the same time. So past lives are when we, our soul, have been incarnated as a different being. Our personalities are often different. There might be similarities. There might even be like really close to how you are now as a human, but sometimes they're really different, really quite different. And so when you're doing work with past lives, it's important to acknowledge that and to see these differences and the commonalities. I'm going to come on spirit guide separately. The energy first universe. So this universe, I know, is created through energy first, and by that I mean that everything is energy first. It is a frequency, it is a vibration, and source and the source of love of this universe are a key part, if not the part, of the kind of physical manifestation of the universe. So like this vibration that causes matter to exist. And atoms, for example, like are constantly vibrating at a frequency. And that, that's at the core of us, right? They're the building blocks of our existence in this 3D reality. And so it's really important to understand that the energy first universe is how this whole universe exists. And so let's say something happens in your life, like, I don't know, like noisy neighbors, for example. It's not physically your neighbors that are annoying you as much as it is the energy that they're experiencing and going through, the energy they're resonating out, the energy you're receiving. And it's that energy first that it's a really important paradigm to explore. And I encourage you to do your research, look at some of the popular quantum physics, like it's called the slit experiment. And is it Schrodinger's cat? Am I saying that right? Maybe. Like there's lots of different ways of understanding the quantum universe. There's lots of more recent movies about it as well. And not just putting the word quantum in front of everything, like actually understanding like what that means, how the timelessness and the ability to travel through space and time freely as energy, and how energy creates this physical manifestation. And another way of looking at the way this reality is created is that our consciousness, so our soul, our divine spark in our bodies, our physical bodies, create through our minds and every aspect of us. We shine like a torch, like a flashlight, into reality around us, into the void around us. And what we're experiencing and feeling and our expectations and what we're programmed to believe is manifested from us, like from the light of us. And like what comes back to us is this reflection of this energy around us. And so we're very much creating that reality around us, and also like individually, and then co-creating it with everyone else in this planet and this universe. Soul fragments and soul retrievals. So soul fragments are really fascinating. Quite a lot of my client sessions, and I've done over 300 now, in these sessions, I often see that a soul during an incarnation has developed like a superpower. And yeah, so a soul develops a superpower. So let's say the soul develops the ability for creating fire, and so like pyrokinesis. And in a lifetime, they're going through like a battle, they're going through trauma. Often it's like, the death of a loved one or the threat of that, triggering them to use their superpower in anger. And so when they do that, often the superpower is like quite new to them, And as a result of them using it, the unexpected happens. So, maybe they just wanted to harm one being, and then actually they hurt or killed many. And so then, as that happens, the soul decides, look, I don't ever want to have, I don't have to carry this responsibility for this kind of weapon, this big superpower. And so what I'll do is effectively cut off part of the soul and send it down. And I see often it's the soul pushing through a portal in space and time, pushing down into the lower realms of the underworld, into hell, part of the soul. And the soul is split apart. And we were talking about quantum, the quantum reality. There's something called quantum entanglement, where it doesn't really matter how far apart the parts of the soul are, they're always connected. And so it, for a while, and maybe for many lifetimes, the soul is able to exist without that fragment and without that superpower. Excuse me. But the problem is that quantum entanglement is the soul is still missing that fragment. And so there's always that yearning inside, the soul's where is this? So it creates this kind of wounding. And if it goes on for a long time, the soul totally forgets, the incarnation has no awareness of this fragment or where it is. And so what I often do in client sessions is I go to lower realms of, I go down into the realms of hell with the client, and hell to me is very much where souls go to experience what feels like eternal torture, and self-torture, you see in some movies time loops and things like this, the same trauma repeating over and over. So we'll go there, identify where the fragment is, energetically pick it up, bring it up to the surface, and then reintegrates that part. And in that journey, learn so much about what really happened, what happened during that time of the trauma that triggered it. And often things aren't as bad as the soul and the person thought. Sometimes they are just as bad, but they realize that they're actually playing out karma. So they're being asked by Source and the universe to kind of execute on behalf of karma and to help rebalance the universe, darkness and light. Let's get my water. Okay. Thank you for your patience. And yeah, so I've covered soul fragments, and that's what I call soul retrievals. When we bring that part back, we reintegrate it with the person, and then they're healed. It's a big, energetically, it's a huge thing to go through. Often it takes at least days for my client to reintegrate that part of themselves. And it's a very risky, it's a very high risk, and I mean to your soul and to your human activity to do. And that's why soul fragmentation and soul retrievals, anything that involves dealing with, darker entities, demons or negative attachments, is much higher risk. And so I tend not to teach it publicly or in groups. I tend to do that one-to-one in a safer environment. Any of these things that I've covered so far, if you want to learn more or you want a session with me, of course, please go ahead and get in contact or just book me on my website. Quantum energy. So in part to explain, so first of all, let's explain what, when I'm doing healing, so when I'm sending healing energy I bring it down from the highest dimension of source, I bring it to my heart chakra, into my hand chakras, and I bring out that love energy. I set the intention, the clear focus, the frequency, and I target the chakra or the aspect of someone that needs healing the most. And that it's possible through space and time. We can do it to the past, so I can do it to one of their past lives or their future lives. And I can do it like we're doing now, like in video, in a replay, and over a Zoom call or a Skype or otherwise. And how is that even possible? And it's possible because this universe is truly quantum. And whilst we haven't yet quite figured out how our physical forms will travel, we do know that we can travel energetically. You can astral travel, where your energetic body, you still attach a cord to yourself and ground it into the earth, but you can travel anywhere in the universe, and that is so cool. Past, present, and future. You can talk to any being. And really, this is a gift that many of us learn through our awakenings and our devotion to our practice afterwards. And yet there's so much to tap into. Sometimes I forget, what will I do today? And I'm like, I could literally go anywhere in the universe and I could ask any being anything. So that's exciting. And the energy itself is quantum in that there's no bound of time. There's no bound of physical boundaries. And this really opens up your consciousness to realize, so for example, the accidental energies that you send out and receive. So if you're thinking about someone, then you're resonating out frequencies of that being, that person from yourself with an intention, with an energy attached to it. And so just be aware that when you're thinking, you're feeling, or you're acting, all of these things are actually energetic actions, and that you're creating these waves of these emotions that flow, that ripple across the whole universe. You might have someone that you were friends with, and then you didn't see them maybe for a week, and during that time you only thought negative thoughts about them, and then you met up with them a week later. They're not going to be happy about you. And it doesn't really matter how sensitive they are. Obviously, the more sensitive they are, the more clearly they'll feel it and know that it's from you. And if you're one of my friends, or if you're thinking of me, psychic friends are quite hard to have, right? Because we're high maintenance. It means that you have to catch yourself. Like whenever you're thinking about someone, whether they're sensitive or not, be mindful that they could be feeling it. And even if they're not feeling it, just be, just be conscious with your choices of thoughts and feelings towards others, because it's not just actions and words that people feel, it's the energy too. Okay, spirit guides. They're really cool. So I was fascinated when I first went through my awakening in 2017, and a couple of weeks later, I started meditating. I'd been meditating every day, for 2 weeks, and I had heard a spirit guide. It's like, oh, this is great. I'm gonna try and talk to my spirit guides, and so I did, remarkably quickly. But this happens for a lot of people. Like my son, just within a couple of weeks as well, when I think he was age about 11, he started talking to his spirit guides, and it's like it's very natural for us to do it. I think the first most important thing is with all these concepts, like you have to know it and believe it for it to be real for you. And so if you don't believe in spirit guides, well, you're not really going to have them. Just like people that don't believe in ghosts don't really experience them, even if the ghost is like causing physical changes around them, moving things around. They're not really going to experience that concept of a ghost. Spirit guides are typically teams of about 8, and they are souls that have either you've shared a past life with, or sometimes it's like even an aspect of you. They could be a human relative. I do know that our souls form like soul groups and like a tribe, and that we incarnate like lifetime after lifetime, like my son was my father and vice versa, and sometimes like our loved ones are in different families in this lifetime, and then we're together in the next. It's like all these things are true. And I encourage you to explore that and feel into it. For me, my spirit guides are from around the universe. The first guide that came forward to me her name is Maya, and she is a sister, like almost like a fragment of another incarnation of Gaia, of Mother Earth. That gets a bit confusing to say when I'm in a session and I'm talking to both of them at the same time, Maya and Gaia. But Maya is really beautiful. I see her as this quite tall woman, long blonde hair, white or sometimes white hair. She shows herself as long, like white flowing clothes, very beautiful. These really like deep blue eyes, and very kind and very loving. And it was her energy that I felt first. Like it took a long time for me to be able to see her. With my eyes closed and in my mind's eye, my third eye. And I later realized that she was kind of proxying for the other spirit guides. So she was like my contact, my go-to. And that's also quite common, is that, excuse me, in client sessions, I'll have like, I'll ask one guide to step forwards. It's much easier to talk to one of the guides at a time, and it's okay for them to, take in turns. And I have guides from around the universe, mantis guides, Arcturian. There's two humanoid twins who I'm not entirely sure the names of their planets, but they're from Andromeda. And then there's a reptilian guide, Mantis. Did I mention Mantis? And I also have a frog being. So like his name's Kinterman, and he's super fun. I also have Marek, who's like the darkest spirit guide. So he's quite small, almost like a little troll being. And that's quite common as well. Not all your spirit guides are at exactly the same frequency, right? Some are higher and some are lower, and the lower ones you can get to help you with the lower frequency challenges that you have. So yeah, there's a whole team that supports us, and they change over time. Like your spirit guides each of them have their own superpowers, and they'll step forwards or step to the back. And sometimes that's hard, right? When you get like one being that steps forwards for so long in your life, and then they interchange with someone else, you kind of go through this like grieving period, but know that they're always there, and you can always call back on them. But they'll tend to just like come and say hello. I'm still here. You give you a hug, like a pat on the head, and then allow the other guides to step forwards again. And it's really important. Don't assume ever that it's, if something contacts you out of the blue, don't just start talking to it. So if any being tries to talk to me, I first go and ask my spirit guides, and I ask, who is this? Is it one of you? Is this one of my spirit guides? And don't ask the being if it's a spirit guide. Ask your spirit guides to say, spirit guides, is this being one of my spirit guides? Or what is this being's intention? Or so you can ask all these things and just feel into that intuition in your heart. And even if you're totally new to this and you've never done it before, like, it's a really valuable rule, because it's so easy to be manipulated by wandering energies and entities. And you can imagine the ones that are wandering around, it's like a jungle out there. And it's so easy to just be manipulated by something that doesn't have your highest good, like false light, like very bright light, but it's actually like a dark demon. So yeah, just be mindful. So that's spirit guides, galactic races. So this is the fact that we're not alone at all. In fact, we are in many respects aliens ourselves, because our souls have come from often tens and hundreds of thousands of different incarnations through this universe, and we've lived on many planets, and that's okay. And it just is. And then even our DNA has been manipulated by different galactic races over thousands of years, and which I'll come on to about why. And so even our physical makeup has, been strongly influenced by galactic races. And that's why when you look back at a lot of our, our ancient cultures, whether it's American and like native indigenous Indians, or whether it's, excuse me, ancient Egyptians, there's many stories of how beings from the stars came and worked with humans and often bred with humans. So that helped me a lot get my head around. I'd spent about 15 years like hunting UFOs and trying to understand all about it. And I think it was when I look back, it was actually this version of me now that understands this, that was calling me, like the truth was calling me. Just like in the first Matrix movie when Neo's being called like to, he's looking for the Matrix. And you can talk to any of these. It's so cool, right? In a meditation, you can talk to any of these beings. It doesn't matter where they're from in the universe. Like there's no difference to, if you're from Orion, Andromeda, Mars, Saturn, like wherever, it could be anywhere. It could be an unknown planet to you, or galaxy to you. Like it doesn't matter. We're all part of the same source, the same energy. And so it's really important to just know that there's nothing to be scared of. In fact, the vast majority of alien and galactic races are a lot better than humans. But some are really dark and some are really scary. And so it's important for you to discern your energy and your communication to do all this safely. And that's something that I teach a lot in both my spirit guide meditations and then also my training courses. Okay, and yeah, everything is living. So I know that some of the things you wouldn't expect to be living are alive. So trees, they're alive, right? They're a living plant. They also have like a hive mind. So they have a forest connects like all the energy of every living thing. It's not just the trees connect as this like hive mind, and that's really beautiful. They can still be individual but be in unity at the same time. Now, also stones, rocks, mountains, water, like everything has the capability of consciousness, of sentience. And mind-blowingly, even things that we create, like, cars and machines, they have this, like, we are creative beings. And when we push onto something like, if you're really negative about your car, you can guarantee it's going to have a lot of problems. If you're really positive about it, you're giving it so much gratitude, it has an effect. Now, does a car have a soul? I think it's possible, but I don't think my car has a soul. But I think it definitely feels what, my energy. And definitely when me and my family are going through, like we had a recent family bereavement, all kinds of problems just started happening immediately, like on the day. And there's no such thing as coincidences, right? Just synchronicities and reflections. So yeah, everything is living, plants, stars, rocks, streams, everything. And it really helps to think of the universe like that. And it makes you much more respectful of everything. And then, yeah, and galactic races themselves. And when I say galactic race, I just mean any like being that's not from Earth. And of course that includes like angels and, higher realm beings. Some beings, like for instance, the Blu-ray beings, they're just below the highest dimension of source. And they're just enough separation in them to be like a unique being. And so that's really fascinating. They spend a lot of time in unity, and then they spend also a lot of time and they live for like eons and eons. And I've done quite a lot of work with Blu-ray entities, and they are their own galactic race. Like they are their own being. But when you see them, when I see them in meditations and sessions, they're very like this like, it's like a little blue cloud. And sometimes I find it really hard to know like where to talk to. I talk to the center of like a cloud. As a human, is quite hard to do. So sometimes I'll just ask them to manifest. And often they'll say, they'll show themselves as like an avian, which is like a bird being. And that's because the avians, the blue avians, have like this really strong bond with the blue rays, and they can bring through this really high vibration. They can cope with this really high vibration energy in their physical bodies, and so it's almost like a synergy, like two souls existing within the same being. But it's a really beautiful partnership. And so it's just an example of, they can come in, I might be doing a client session and see a spirit guide as a rock, or a rock being, or a mountain being, or, a cloud, or like electricity or fire, or any of the elements. All of it's possible. And also spirit guides often show up as, beings can transform themselves energetically to look and feel very differently. And so you can ask them, what is your true form, or what is the form that you feel most comfortable with, or if you're not comfortable with that form itself. So, for example, some people find the reptilians like quite scary, and I totally understand why. They've got a really bad reputation, but they're not all like that. And my Lucy, my reptilian guide, is very, very loving, and she's always shown herself as her true form to me. She looks like, maybe like I don't know if she'll like this or not, but like a mini version of somewhere between Godzilla and a raptor. So it's like somewhere between the two, but that love energy anywhere, and you feel it anywhere. You can't hide, your energy, or you can hide it, but then it's an absence of energy that you see. But yeah, she's beautiful. I'm very grateful for her. And Ascension of the universe. Okay, so you've heard me talk for almost an hour about all these things, some of which you might think I'm crazy. You might think this is a load of woo-woo stuff. You might think I'm highly religious, or I'm like, I've lost my mind. And you never know. Some of those could be true, but they're not true for me. And I've never felt so clear-minded and cognizant, and have such clarity of thought, and I feel like all these different concepts, I'm constantly evolving my learning and my knowledge through my experiences. There's so much magic in each of these concepts. And these are just some of them, right? This is like the kind of spiritual, the metaphysical tip of the iceberg. And there's so much more to share and experience, to learn. And so it's a lot. You don't need to memorize all these things for whatever work you're doing with me. But I want you to know my truth. And I want you to know that when you work with me, this is what I mean by these concepts and my intention behind them. So yeah, finally, the ascension of the universe. Why is Earth such an interesting place to the rest of the universe right now? So the universe is constantly going through, it's almost like a battle of darkness and light, like to balance the two. If you destroyed light, it would just be a very dark, void place, and it would be pretty horrible. But even darkness is a spectrum. And so even the lightest darkness, like there's still you're just slicing off part of the frequency range. And then it's the same with light. Like if we only had light in the universe, then it would be almost dark in its own right, because there would be no comparison, no contrast to it. There would just be the darkest light, if that makes sense, in the spectrum left. So the reality is, and Earth is being like pushed for many years too hard on the darkness, programming us, allowing ourselves to be programmed, allowing us to sleepwalk into consuming like fear, through media and through what we read and hear, and then taking that fear and we like amplify it. Like when we react to it, like we create this reality around us, and then we co-create it with our fellow humans. And this is like the superpower of the humans. That's why they're so these galactic races are so interested in us, because we create realities around us. And so if we're in a fear state, we create a fear world. And so, if you want to manipulate us and you figure out how to hack the human, so for example, play lots of fear-based movies about, aliens to humans, make them feel fear about it, and then the humans will create that reality, like it physically actually happens. Especially when, if you research like the power of 8, or studies that have been done with many humans getting together and doing things together energetically, or with their mind or thought meditation, like magic happens, like the unexpected, unexplainable happens. And so all these galactic races want to be part of the ascension of the universe. So we as humans are ascending, raising our vibrations. The earth is ascending, raising its vibrations. And there's this kind of split happening. And you may hear about the shift, or the fifth dimension. And what happens is beings that don't want to ascend get to stay. They get to stay for as long as they want in a lower dimension, like let's say the third dimension or below. And then for those that want to go and do the work and go through their ascension process, and of course it's not easy. You have to do like your shadow work, you have to face your fears, you have to do all this hard healing work at the same time. It's not for everyone. Not everyone chooses to face it, but when you do, you have the opportunity to ascend at any time. There's no rush. You don't need to do it tomorrow or anything. And so you can ascend into this higher dimension of Earth, into the fifth and then sixth and so on dimensions. And that's really magical. And so there's a lot of future versions of us, like the gray aliens. When you research them, a lot of what they've been doing is trying to come back to the now, to come back to this present moment, to influence their future, because they're like a future possibility of us. And what they're trying to do is survive. They're trying to figure out like, what is the magic within the human DNA that allows humans to create reality, to continue to support the ascension. I don't think ascension by itself is unique to us in the universe. But I do know that the way we're doing it is quite unique, and our ability to create and co-create reality is stronger maybe than any other being in the universe. So it's such an exciting time, and this is why you're being called to work with me. This is why you've watched me for an hour or listened to me in a podcast. Is that I'm not better than you. I'm exactly equal to you. We're all equal. But what I'm doing is I'm experiencing something and sharing it with you, and you are consuming it because it resonates with you. And I'm inviting you to go on your own journey to learn more about what it is you want to learn about. Like, what's the truth of the universe, quantum energy, spirit guides, like, watch other people's videos, talk to other people. I encourage all of this. When you do, just practice like that feeling of discernment. It's a bit like when you go on Wikipedia, when you go on the internet, you Google something, and one of the first results is a wiki, and that wiki result is like someone or some people have put it together, and it's really interesting because you have the sense that it's the truth of the people that created it. And that the people that see it and then decide not to submit an edit, and that's kind of the way the reality is. As long as you accept something to be true, it becomes true. And when you choose to go make an edit, it becomes different. You modify it, and that's why I talk a lot about magic, is because I feel like it's the unexplained. By magic, I don't mean like an illusion. I mean magical with a K, CK, which is that these things are truly mysterious. They're exciting, they're sparkling, they're fantastic, they're fabulous. They're just incredible to experience. And that we are constantly discovering, like in Harry Potter, like new magic ways well beyond Harry Potter. I love Harry Potter, but even well beyond that, these new realities that we're creating and co-creating. And so there's really no limit to what you can learn, what you can explore. And also I would just say that a lot of what I've shared with you has taken me since 2017 to get a better understanding of. And even from my mentors and from other people that I listen to, or, you see me being friends with, they probably won't all agree with everything I've said, but it is my truth and my reality. Okay, well, thank you for making it to just over an hour with me. It's been an absolute honor to share my truths with you. And I look forward to working with you, whether you're in my meditations, whether you're in my training, or whether you're working with me in one-to-one sessions or group sessions. It's a real honor to share this at this time. And I'm sure at some point I will go back to this moment and make updates or add more videos to explain more subjects. And if you have any questions, let me know in the comments or however this is shared, or contact me on my website at jonbinnie.com. And I look forward to exploring this magical universe with you. Thank you. Sending my love from Scotland. Love you.